So we're ready for Henry's law. Henry's law, one of my favorite gas laws, it says the number of moles of gas dissolved in a liquid at a given temperature is proportional to the partial pressure of the gas. Whoa, man, what does that mean? So this idea of pressure goes up, which can be partial pressure, which also means concentration. So if I have a mixture of gases, then the pressure of the individual gas. That means the solubility also goes up. This is important. This is why we give a patient oxygen gas. All right, and so this is also, you've seen this before. So if I show a Coke bottle or can here, what's going on then? And when I've got it closed, then it's under pressure, and I've got my CO2 is under pressure. If it's under pressure, it dissolves in the gas. Now this CO2 is dissolved in the gas. When I open it, I've increased the volume. That'll lower the pressure. Remember, Boyle's law, pressure and volume inversely proportional. So increase the volume, lower the pressure. So then that lowers the solubility. So that means the CO, that's when you get a bunch of bubbles come out, all that CO2. Now we want to keep in mind CO2 actually reacts with the water. And I'm going to use this funky looking arrow because it's an equilibrium, and it makes carbonic acid. And so when all the CO2 has left, we'll see that that means you can taste it. What you're tasting is the absence of carbonic acid. All right, and so when we say, oh, the Coke has gone flat, then it's because all the CO2 has come out of solution, all right, or enough of it is. This is the same process that your body knows to breathe with. And so we breathe to get rid of CO2, and our body monitors the carbonic acid. So you bringing in oxygen is kind of a side product, all right? And so if we were to give a patient too much oxygen, then they wouldn't have any CO2. And if we drive out all the CO2, they'll stop breathing on their own because they won't have that drive to breathe. So they have to have a little bit of CO2 built up to actually trigger their body to say, oh, I need to take a breath, get rid of the CO2. All right. So it's easier to monitor the buildup of CO2 than it is for our body to monitor the lack of oxygen. Okay. So this also is the reason why we have to worry about scuba divers. When you go scuba diving, for every, so I'm gonna pick on, let's pick on salt water. So if I'm doing salt water and I'm sitting here at the surface, and let's say I'm out in the ocean, so if I'm sitting here at the surface, I have 1 atmosphere of air pressure above me. All right, and then for salt water, if I go down 3 1/3 feet, all right, then that's another atmosphere of pressure. So if I go down 3 feet, I'm under 2 atmosphere. I've doubled the pressure. If I go on down 6 feet, I'm under 3 atmosphere. And so you can see you don't have to go very far down before you're down here swimming. Let's give us everybody is swimming. There he is, having a great time. Bubbles coming up. There we go. And so you're down here swimming, and you don't want to use pure oxygen in your tank because that leads pure oxygen, too much oxygen like that causes oxygen narcosis. Oh man, it's let's see, it's pleasant at first, and then you become psychopathic. So you'll start giggling and laughing and having a good time, and then you'll try to kill all your dive mates, and then you'll pass out. So not really good for being under the water, especially because everybody always carries a dive knife with them. So no, thank you. So what do we actually do then? We use compressed air, and so this compressed air is controlled by a regulator. And modern scuba diving owes a lot to this invention of the regulator. Jacques Cousteau invented the regulator. And what it does is it says, hey, if you're trying to breathe down here, and let's say you're under 20 atmospheres of pressure, your lungs aren't strong enough to pull in and to bring in that air. And so what the regulator does is your scuba tank's got real high pressure gas in it, and then there's a regulator on. It's a two-part, one on the back behind your head on the nozzle, and then one on the part that goes on your mouth. And so that regulator that goes on your mouth, so the one on the back lowers it a little bit, and then the one that's at your mouth, it has a membrane in it, and it matches the pressure from the water to the pressure of air it lets in. In other words, you breathe, even though you're way at the bottom under 20 atmospheres of pressure, you breathe as if you're at the surface under 1 atmosphere. So your body, you can breathe normal. Now, you're bringing in all this 20 atmospheres of pressure of gas into you. Most of that air that you're breathing in then is nitrogen, N2. Your body isn't doing anything with it, but it's under such high pressure by Henry's law, it'll be soluble in your blood system. Then you start to come up. Well, as you come up, the pressure goes down and the solubility goes down. And if you get too much of that come out at once, then it'll come out as bubbles. You can only breathe so much of this out at once. Your body's only equipped to get rid of gases at a certain speed. So if you overcome that, you get bubbles, and that's called decompression sickness. It's also called the bends. They call it that because it's all those bubbles get stuck in your capillaries, and it's extremely painful. And you bend over and assume the fetal position, and it can be lethal. Matter of fact, there's only really one good cure for it and treatment for it, and that is to get you into a barometric pressure, right, chamber. And so if they can get you into a barometric chamber, raise the pressure, that increases the solubility, all those gases redissolve, and then slowly bring the pressure back down so that you have time to breathe off those extra gases. All right, so Henry's law, it's also the reason why we give a patient, if they're struggling to keep oxygen in their system, we give them increased oxygen flow, but we don't have to put the whole thing at pressure because it's based on Dalton's law of partial pressures. If we increase the concentration of oxygen, we're increasing the partial pressure. And so that makes it where we can get greater solubility in there.